Hello, my name is Jarno Elovirta. So, what do these things have in common? So, in programming, you probably can't recognize those words: Haskell, Rust, and Java. One possible answer is that they are programming languages, and they are strongly typed, and they are statically typed programming languages. So, what do these things have in common? One answer again is that they are programming languages which are dynamically typed. So, JavaScript is another question that we get. So, what do these all have in common? Well, they are programming languages. That's one answer. But the answer I was looking for is that they are programming languages that have a package or library or module repository of some sort. You write your program, you don't want to write everything yourself, so you use someone else's code. And how do you do that? You specify in a magic file that I want to use that library somewhere over there. And the package manager handles that for you. So we were doing our thing and realizing this, and we decided we need to have one too. It's not like people didn't ask for something like this years back, but now we were ready for it, and we needed to actually store things related to it somewhere. So we stuck it on GitHub, and that shipped now with 3.2. That ship it emoji or icon from GitHub. When you want to ship code, you can ship it. So I'll make a statement here. We have built a registry, not a repository. So we do not want to host your plugin files. We don't really even host our own plugin files. We just upload them somewhere. And in our case, it's GitHub. If someone else wants to use the registry, they'll upload their plugins somewhere. The actual registry in this case is just a service that stores the metadata for plugins. It's kind of like the plugin.xml file inside your plugin, but we decided to use a different format. The actual plugin file, so going into technical details, is a JSON file. This isn't static JSON. I just stripped some things out. There are 4 mandatory name of the plugin, which is kind of like the ID, human readable name. We need a version, and then a download URL, because again, we don't host those files. And then at least one dependency, which is the dependency to DITA OT. You need to specify which version of DITA OT is required for this plugin to work. There are other metadata fields that can be added, like the description and keywords, which serve usability or discoverability, then a home page, and then something that isn't mandatory, but effectively is mandatory, a license, because if you stick your stuff on GitHub and you don't specify a license, people can't use it because they're not allowed to. It's open source, but you can't use it if you don't specify a license that allows for that use. So license is effectively mandatory, unless you start hosting a registry that only contains your own stuff, like inside your company network. And then there's a checksum, a hash of the downloadable file, which we use to verify that, yes, we got the exact correct file. But those are currently optional. We in the DITA world are in love with XML, and we didn't use XML here because JSON works better in this type of environment. We could have used YAML, but then everyone would be upset because YAML is difficult to author. The indentations are always wrong. The current implementation we have only handles dependencies, but not the versions, because dependency resolution in this type of environment is actually a really hard problem. If we at some point want to improve the resolution so that you have a plugin that depends on this plugin that depends on that specific version of the plugin, we'll probably take someone else's code. Maven, Gradle, all the different plugin repository front ends, in a way, handle this. But it's an MP hard problem, and I don't have enough information or skills to handle that for now. So what about legacy plugins? What do you do with those? Well, you can actually add those into a repository, but there are a few problems with those because they might not work with the latest version of OpenToolkit, and only the latest version of OpenToolkit supports this out of the box. But still, you can save those somewhere, your legacy plugins, and have them be discoverable via this registry. And I don't really know if we need those. How about built-in plugins? Some people would like us to ship a OpenToolkit version that has no plugins, and then if you need a given transformation type, you just install it. Robert and I usually fight about this once a year, and I end up losing because maybe it's a good idea to ship some default plugin. In my ideal world, you wouldn't have any transformation types when you install OpenToolkit with Brew. You'd need to actually specify what you need. But this probably will not happen. So as of DITA OT 3.2, also the built-in plugins can be installed using the registry, using the normal installation process. So previously we just had one download of OpenToolkit, one zip file. Now we also extract those plugins, and they are then classified. Most users will never need those. And I don't know how many of you actually produce PDF, that means the FOP, antenna house, and rendering formatters, all in the same environment. Probably most people don't.
In my experience, a lot of customers use FOP on individual desktops because they don't have
they are two different environments, two different installations. The complete company is the same, but they are two different installations, two different machines. So, question, who gets into the main registry that, in a way, is the official one? In this case, I wrote the implementation and then didn't think about it. So in a way, it's something that we as a community or we as a OpenToolkit team need to start thinking about it. Who gets the stamp of approval? Also, there might be bad actors that would want to add a plugin that does nasty things on your machine, in a way, malware. Even though we are such a small community, that's probably not a problem. But still, something like this needs to be considered. Adding your own plugin into the registry is semi-manual process right now. We do it via GitHub pull requests, but those are really quite easy to create. If you're able to create a plugin, you're able to get your plugin into the registry. So the contribution guide is this simple. You just create a PR that adds it to the registry. A longer version would be create a plugin, upload it somewhere because it needs to have a URL where you download it. Or the registry, that's kind of like a GitHub term. You create a JSON file for it, and then you spend a week thinking about which versions of the toolkit this actually works on. Way back when people first started to ask for a central repository, they probably just wanted to have a list of plugins, but they never asked for us to mandate that we need to specify which version of Open Toolkit it actually works on, or what the license is. And then you go for the pull request in GitHub, wait for it to be merged, if that is merged, and then you drop the mic and walk away. I don't have a video, I have screenshots. So the current web UI for the plugin registry looks as boring as this. It's just a list of plugins, their descriptions and some keywords. There's a search functionality where you can search for words that appear in those descriptions. And you can open the page for an individual plugin that has information like the keywords, license, homepage, and then some installation instructions, how to do it, and then list of dependencies and versions, because of course you have multiple versions of your own plugin. This is a terminal written in Google Docs. So this is how you install it. You need to know the name or ID of a plugin. You use the -- install, which has been in Open Toolkit for ages now, or seems like ages. And the rest works as if you were installing it from a URL somewhere. Previously you had to actually give it the URL. Now it sort of goes to the registry, looks for it, and then automatically downloads it for you. We still have the old way of installing things that you copy directories into the plugins folder and then run the installation process via the DITA or through ANT. Those still work, but this is just a more convenient way of doing things. So things we probably want to still work on because this is the first version of it. So we want to add CLI support for listing available plugins and then their descriptions. And because you can configure your OT installation to use a different registry or multiple registries, we should probably allow people to list those too. The resolution currently is so simple that it'll just pick the first plugin it finds if you have multiple registries available. So as before, plugin ID should be unique. The web UI is ugly. We need to make that appear a bit prettier. Because we don't host the plugin files. We don't have access to the README file inside the plugin. So right now the description is just a piece of text. But if you compare with other plugin repositories, those have a nice README that states who's maintaining this and how to install it in a given system, if you contrast, for example, with NPM. So that would be nice to have more text shown with the plugin. And then, of course, to make it easier, because with JavaScript world, you'll just type npm publish and it'll extract all the information and push somewhere. Right now, you still have to write the JSON file manually, but hopefully we'll at some point generate at least part of that file from the plugins.xml that your plugin will always have. So our idea was that if we build something the users will come. And now I'm hoping that people will add their plugins to the registry, thereby getting more use maybe, because of course we want people to be able to discover other people's plugins. Like Radu has written 6,500,000 plugins, and he's just linked to them on blog entries and Twitter, and not everyone knows about all these plugins. So when Radu adds all the plugins from Synchrosoft, the registry should then be quite full. So this was the presentation. I thank you.
Yes. So this is very cool. I will populate all my plugins in there over the next couple of days. So earlier you were talking about if you shipped a version of the toolkit with no plugins, then you have to install them. How hard would it be to take that a step further and say, if I request a trans type for which the plugin is not found, I can look in the registry, find the trans type, install the plugins, its dependencies, and then go on. Basically make the toolkit behave the way Docker does, for example. So if I say data space -f EPUB, and the EPUB plugin isn't found, but I can look up, if I want to be able to search for the trans type in the registry, which I realized didn't seem to be accounted for in your current implementation. How hard would that be to add? I can't imagine it would be that difficult.
It would probably be trivial. The only thing is that everyone wants to own web help, the transformation type.
Right.
We already reserved PDF, PDF2, HTML5 trans types using a feature in the registry called alias, where you can alias a given name and then tell that this alias points to that plugin. Because, for example, the field in HTML5 plugin for Open Toolkit is of DITA.html5. But you can just say DITA-install HTML5 and it will find it for you. So in a way, using that alias feature, you would do it. Or then we'll just add support for having a metadata field called trans types where you list those. But then the problem is who gets web help first.
I would say whoever's pull request first gets accepted.
Exactly. So first come, first served. But then again, if that is a malicious actor who reserves everything, then people won't be happy.
Okay, no, stop calling Elliot malicious.
Well, he's not malicious. But it's sort of a problem, and in a way the community needs to decide who gets in and who doesn't get in with a given.
So, I mean, one thing that occurs to me now is that it might make sense to simply pre-reserve the obvious trans types for the well-known format. So HTML, PDF, EPUB, and those, and then make a decision who, if anybody, gets to be those. Everything after that, it's your obligation to come up with a distinct trans type name.
Yeah.
Which I've done and did it for publishers, for example.
Yeah. So since you can have multiple registries, we just in a way host one. You can have multiple ones where inside your company you can call EPUB whatever you want. That can resolve to any plugin you want. But in the rest of the world, the word EPUB resolves to a given plugin that then everyone will get. That's sort of a problem that I didn't solve before writing the code, and I'm sorry for it.
Yes. It's probably linked, but just to be sure, is there or will there be some way to get some private registries, like something that's resolved uniquely from an internal perspective and that you can change?
Yes, but you need to host those.
Yeah, eventually. So
the registry format is a bunch of JSON files in a flat directory structure. So it's super simple.
Okay.
And one thing I didn't mention is that if your plugins have dependencies to other plugins, those are recursively installed too. So you just need to specify, I want, for example, EPUB plugin, and it'll install 65 plugins that are dependent on that one plugin.
I think it's down to about 50.
Okay, 50.
Okay, thanks.